I just want to start this video off with a quick bada, bada, boom. Yes, as you can tell by the thumbnail and title, we are finally getting into it, and welcome back to DLA Alternative. It's your boy Brandon, and thank you to everyone who keeps subscribing, liking, and following this journey. We are so very close to that 1K marker, people. We are about 20 away, 15 away, something like that. But yes, help us get there. We are almost there. I think this video, we are going to top that. So get ready for that. We are about to hit a family of 1,000 subs. So thank you to everyone who keeps viewing these videos. But yes, obviously I had to start this off with the bada bada boom because, oh my gosh, did you guys watch the same Tadum event as me? Because straight up, this whole event and whole Stranger Things part of this event was strictly associated to memory, people. And what was our last theory? The memory theory. So I knew we were straight on the nail on the head. I don't even know if that means anything at all. But yes, as you can tell, I'm extremely excited and I want to jump right into this video. We are just going to go straight through this whole entire trailer, this new season 5 teaser trailer, okay? And we are going to break it down. But I did want to point out, thank you, Peyton Lister, whoever wrote her script that she read, okay, when she was announcing the cast of Stranger Things, Caleb, Finn, and Noah, all right? If you were paying attention, she actually said and gave a shout out to the fans that make theories. So thank you to whoever at Netflix wrote that script for her, okay? Because that was awesome to hear. But basically, this whole entire scenario and this whole scene that they did on stage was based off memory, people. It was a trip down memory lane, the whole start of it. And we're going to talk about that in another video because we got a lot to talk about here, people. So let's get right into this one. All right, so basically this trailer, okay, this teaser trailer was like basically almost all of old clips, okay? But you got to pay attention to the old clips that they are showing. So we're going to break this down in part 1 of this, and then in part 2 at the end of this video, not another video. But in part 2 at the end of this, we are going to break down what we see from season 5. So basically this starts off, and it does start off with the scene from season 5, and it shows us Joyce and Will talking, okay? And Joyce basically says, I think about that night all the time, the night it came for you, the night all of this started. And then Will, later on, he goes, everything changed. We failed. We need to be ready. So basically that's all we get of their talking from season 5, in my opinion, except for the little clips that we see. But my major point is that's very important because it's Will and Joyce, and those are the two main people that we are going to be seeing stories of, in my opinion. One, basically, because obviously all of Stranger Things is based off of Will's vanishing. But now that we have our origin story, and especially after this Toonam event, that we have proof that all of these memories and all of this shit is going to be a major thing going into season 5. No doubt in my mind, the first shadow, the origin story, and all of our parents' involvement is going to have some play in season 5, no doubt. And no doubt in my mind, I think Joyce is a major part of that story. And I have not seen that play, but I think Joyce is a major part of what happens or how it stops in that story. That's just my opinion. I have not seen it, like I said, but I want to point out that this is Will and Joyce talking. And yes, I know that this is strictly about a mother and a child talking about something that happened earlier on in the show. But if you really think about this deeply, people, that we have this first origin story with Joyce's involvement, and we also have the major involvement of Will's vanishing, which started this entire show and this entire series that we know and love. So with all that being said, let's jump into the clips, people, because basically the first clip that we see is the search party, okay? We see the cops and all of those people going to search for Will. But then we get another clip, people, and it's when Joyce and Jonathan are searching Castle Byers. And what happens? We talked about this in another theory, and it blew my mind that they showed this clip, okay? But basically in the real show, if you go to the real show and look right before this scene is shown, okay, we found a secret, all right? One of the Stranger Things secrets that I included in the Will Byers theory, okay? And in the Will Byers theory, we talked about the fact that someone is running in the background while they are yelling and searching for Will in this scene. And it happens right before this clip that they show in this event, in this teaser. So it blew my mind that there's a connection right there, and there's something weird that happens in that scene and that they showed it in this teaser. But then this next clip, okay, it's when the boys finally meet Eleven and they find her in the woods. It's that final scene at the very end of chapter 1, season 1, okay? The vanishing Will Will Byers. But basically, in that scene, we never had a chance to talk about it, and it makes me crazy now thinking about it because I've been wanting to talk about this scene, all right? But unfortunately, we have not gotten to the Will Byers theory part 3 yet, which we will. But my point is that something happened in this scene that's really weird that we never had a chance to talk about. But if you go to this scene and you pay attention real closely, okay, the boys are talking, Dustin and Lucas are talking, they're arguing or whatever, and basically Mike says, shut up, I hear something. Do you guys hear that? And when he says that, okay, they're looking in one direction, all right? They're looking because they hear something ahead of them, right? But if you pay attention, right when they hear another sound, which is 11 behind them, okay, they turn around because they hear something behind them now. So no doubt in my mind, there's something weird in that scene, and we will talk about it in Will Byers Theory Part 3 coming out soon. But the main thing you got to pay attention to is that there is 2 things that they heard in that scene. So let's continue. But the next few clips are interesting, and 2 of them we have included in our theories and pointed out some weird things that go on during those scenes, okay? And the next one is when Joyce is with her Christmas lights, okay? And we have our electricity theory, which we talked all about this. So let me know if you want to get back into a theory involving this scene and involving stuff involving the Christmas lights or the electricity in this show specifically, strictly because they included it in this. So let's talk about that shit again. But the next clip is of Hopper, okay? And it's right when they discover Will's fake body at the Sattler's Quarry, okay? So it's interesting that they show this clip, but in my opinion, they showed this clip strictly because maybe this is hinting at the fact that the whole truth of this show has been covered up this entire time. That's just my opinion, and that's just my little clever look on this, okay? But my point is maybe that's why they showed this. Maybe the fact that this happened so long ago, the fact that Hawkins could just strictly cover up a fake body, cover up all of this stuff, maybe there's more to what they can cover up, and maybe that involves memory, like we started talking about in our memory theory, people. My mind is blown still. But the next clip is interesting. We talked about this in one of the theories, so remind me which one if you remember, but we talked about this clip, and it shows Brenner, okay, and it shows Brenner in his suit, and it's with all these other people. This clip is right when we first kind of meet Brenner, and they go to see that first gate that we see in season 1, episode 1, The Vanishing Will Byers once again, all right? But my major point is something weird happens in that clip as well. This is when they go and see that gate, and that's when one of those other guys says to Brenner, he goes, is this where it came from? And then Brenner kind of just says yes, but then the guy asks him again, and he goes, and what about the girl? And then all Brenner says is she can't have gone far. And we talked about that in one of the other theories. I can't remember, so remind me. But yes, that's interesting that they show this clip once again, and there's something weird about that scene. So don't doubt my mind, if you are new to this family and just discovering some of these theories, go check them out, because we talked a lot about some of these scenes, people, and we talked a lot about the weird things that happen in these scenes and that they say, and just weird stuff that we don't have explanations to. So it's amazing that we are seeing this in the literal teaser trailer, okay? In the next clip, we see Elle in the water tank, okay? And there's some weird stuff about that too that we don't have explained. We have not talked about that specifically in another theory, so that is something that I want to look into specifically, especially now. But the main thing is there is some unexplained stuff about that story and how that happened and what happened after and when it happened and all of that. And in my opinion, maybe they show this strictly because we do see a little bit of how that happened and what happens, but not exactly. But we also have never really seen how 11 escaped. And if this happened the same time and this is a reason of how she escaped, then maybe this is a reason why we're seeing this again. But I can also connect this to the Nina Project as well, and I'm sure you all can. But the thing about that is we are going to be talking about the Nina Project and what Brenner and her talk about involved with the Nina Project, and also with the VHS tapes, okay? Which I found very interesting that they used as a prop during this event, okay, to show us this trip down memory lane, all right? So get ready for the memory theory part 2, because I already have a lot of that planned, and a lot of it connects to basically what we were seeing at Tudum. Basically, those VHS tapes, no doubt in my mind, have a lot of answers, and I think we're going to see a lot of that in season 5 so that we can see some memories of what happened in Hawkins Lab back in the day, and maybe during Henry Creel's time, and maybe during 11's time there, even more than just what we saw during the Nina Project. But then, people, we get to my favorite part of this show and my favorite discovery I have ever found in this show, okay? And you guys already know if you have been a part of this family, and if you are new, go check out the Will Byers Theory Part 1, and also go check out our first Stranger Things secret video. Those videos have proof that we have talked about this specifically, that there is something weird involving the vanishing of Will Byers that has never been discussed or explained in the show whatsoever. And it's not about exactly how he vanished. It's not about why he was in the shed. It's not about if it was the Demogorgon specifically, okay? Because yes, I truly believe the Demogorgon was involved, obviously. But the main thing is there's something a lot of people did not know about in this show that we found a long time ago, a few months back. And during that scene, when Will vanishes, in the window, people, there is a hand in the window just placed up on the glass, okay? And it's very hard to see. I'll try to make it as clear as I can once again. But the main thing is you got to look at is someone else is watching Will basically vanish during this scene. They are on the outside of that shed, okay? So if the Demogorgon's on the inside of the shed with Will and he's involved with Will's vanishing, okay, someone else is there watching this happen. And someone else's hand is up on that glass. Like I said, I'll try and make it as clear as I can. But the main thing is that hand, in my opinion, looks like Vecna's hand, or I'm going to call it that maybe it could be Max's hand. And you might be confused why I'm just pointing out that it might be Vecna or Max, okay? For instance, I think it could be Vecna a little bit more than Max, but the only reason is that Max is gone, and we don't see a lot of Max or what's about to happen with Max in Season 5. And in my opinion, it would be crazy if they connected Max to Will's vanishing in one way or another. And not saying that she's the reason he vanished, but maybe she witnessed this for some reason, and she has memory of this and doesn't know why she has memory of this until we see in Season 5. And yes, that sounds extremely confusing, but you'll get this when we talk more about this in later theories, as we always do. But the main thing is, we do see a hand just like this in Season 4, right at the end during the piggyback episode, okay? And this is when Vecna is about to tell Eleven everything, okay? Or show her shit. And basically what we see is this hand, okay? We don't see this at all from Season 1 all the way up until this point, the very last episode of Season 4, mind you. And if you take a look and compare the two, okay, this is the one from Season 1 where you could barely see it in the window, okay? And this is during Will's vanishing, so keep that in mind. It's very odd that there's somebody on the outside, and we never got an explanation for that once again. But the main thing is now look at them side by side. This is Vecna's hand, and this is the hand in the window. Do they not look exactly the same to you, in my opinion? But the main thing is why am I saying Max, okay? The main thing is about this is maybe Max is trapped in this upside down or somewhere, okay? We obviously see her physical body, and we see it later in this teaser. But we obviously see her physical body and know her physical body is at the Hawkins Memorial Hospital. But the main thing is where is her mindset at? Because we know she was mind jumping and memory jumping previous to this. So logically, if she's memory jumping, okay, and we see this as the hint during all of this to-dumb event, all right, that memory is going to be a strong thing involving Season 5. Well, if Max is memory jumping and maybe she's trying to find memories, maybe for any reason at all, maybe Max is able to access this memory when Will vanished. And that's the only reason I can think. And I don't know why her hand would look like Vecna's, but that's a little weird that if Max is trapped in this area for any reason, I really hope that she doesn't start turning like a Vecna into a female version of a Vecna and it ends up being Mad Max, for instance. But anyways, let's continue, people. Because right after that, we get the van flip, which I don't really understand why they showed. Maybe that's just because it was a major scene in Season 1, okay? But then we get a clip from Season 2, and it's Dustin looking on. And we get this scene from Dustin quite a lot, I've noticed, actually. And I just noticed it as they put this in here, okay? We get this scene right now during this scene in the Ghostbusters scene, okay? When he's realizing that no one else is in costumes. But then we also get this scene later in this teaser, which we will talk about. And then we also get this scene with Dustin at the end of Season 4 when he's looking up into the sky and he's seeing all the spores falling with everyone from the town of Hawkins when they're at the high school. And Eddie's uncle's with him and all of that, okay? But it's interesting that we see Dustin have this scene where he looks on and he sees what's happening, okay? It's a little weird that I just noticed myself, and I don't know if you've noticed too, but it's a little weird that he has this specific scene. So let me know your thoughts about that. And it's interesting that they incorporate the Ghostbusters one, because I wonder if that is the first time we kind of see Dustin have this little look of like realization, okay? It's kind of like he's realizing the truth when he has these types of looks or scenes. So let me know your thoughts. And then the next scene, it jumps and it shows Hopper in the tunnels, which no doubt in my mind, I am so happy that they showed this, because I really, 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 truly hope that we get to revisit the tunnels. And I think this is a hint at that. So let me know your thoughts as well. But then the next clip, okay, it shows Will, and it shows two scenes of Will when he sees the Mind Flayer, which we talked about, people, in our Mind Flayer theory series. I have a 3-part series where we talked all about the Mind Flayer, okay, and his involvement and what it could be and what it could be doing in this show. And also involving Will. We didn't talk too much about Will's involvement with that, but it's interesting that it shows these two scenes. And one of those scenes is actually on Halloween night, okay, and in my opinion, that's when they're in that weird rich people cul-de-sac, okay, when Will sees that Mind Flayer for the first time like that. And I mean, as close as that for the first time, because the first time he actually sees it is outside of his house, far, far away in the distance. But this scene has always been interesting to me, and this is also the scene when he first hears Dart. So it's very interesting to me, because then it shows the clip when he actually gets infiltrated by the Mind Flayers, which we talked a lot about in those theories, so go check those out, people. They're very interesting. But then our next clip, it shows Jonathan and Nancy seeing the gate for the first time. In that scene, there is something interesting in that scene as well, and it's actually right before Owen shows them the gate. It's actually when Nancy is screaming at the camera saying, "Let them out of that room," okay? And then Owens walks in and apologizes for how long it was taken and all that. But if you pay attention to that scene, we might have talked about it in one of the theories, so remind me, but if you pay attention to that scene and what Owens does when he looks at Nancy, just take a look at how he looks at her, okay? There's something about how Owens looks at Nancy specifically, and it's a very odd, and I don't know why, and this is all the way back in season 2, okay? The main thing is about that, people, is that we see that Vecna shows Nancy a vision, okay? So for any reason, we have a weird involvement involving Nancy with all of this, okay? But then we see back in season 2 that Owens looks like he knows who Nancy is before he actually has ever met her. So let me know your thoughts about that, because in that scene we might have talked about it, like I said, I'm not too sure, but in that scene, that is a little weird thing that happens also in that scene. So it's interesting that they are showing all of these clips that something weird or something interesting has happened during those scenes, okay? So pay attention to all those scenes and rewatch all of those scenes in the show, because all of this stuff is in there for you to see. These next clips we're kind of going to move quickly past, okay? It's when Elle's levitating and closing the gate. It's the Star Court scenes. And then we also see the scene of Billy when he is basically sacrificing himself to save Eleven, because she sparked that memory, that happy memory in his mind, okay? And he ends up waking up and basically saving them and delaying that monster from attacking all of them and killing all of them. But basically right after that, it jumps to all of these random scenes that we see in the build-up at the end of season 4 that leads us into our season 5, which is interesting how this trailer connects, because right after that is when we get into our season 5 clips. But what I want you to keep in mind, people, that during these scenes, okay, these ones specifically from Elle levitating up until the season 4 end scenes, okay, these scenes is when Will is saying his line during this trailer, okay? When he says everything changed, that they failed, and that they need to be ready. So no doubt in my mind that shows a connection to when Elle closed the gate, that was a failure. When Billy sacrificed himself in that way, possibly, that was a failure. And also everything that we see in those clips involving season 4, that maybe season 4, the whole entire process might have been a failure, people. So keep that in mind, that those are the only clips that it shows Will saying that, all right? It's just very interesting to me. But real quickly, before we move on to the season 5 clips and finally the season 5 teaser clips, all right? The new clips that we can finally review, all right? But before we do that, I want you to keep in mind that right before they show this, they show that Billy specifically, okay? And I want you to keep in mind how Billy looks and how he's looking up and how he is screaming, okay? So just keep that in mind. But then I also want you to keep in mind this quick clip that they show of Max during the Dear Billy episode, okay? Which is another involvement involving Billy and what happens to Billy specifically. But I want you to keep in mind, it says right on his tombstone, which we have seen this obviously before, it says, "Go gone but not forgotten, okay? So just keep that in mind that we see this clip of Billy and then we see this quote, okay? Also on Billy's grave. 2 involvements of Billy, 2 different seasons, all right? But as we get into our season 5 clips finally, okay, our first clip is of Joyce with her axe, the infamous Joyce and axe scene, okay? And they are in a barn from what it looks like. This is a new location from what I am seeing on the internet. But my main thing is the characters that are with her, okay? We got Erica and Robin, which look ready to go, just like Joyce looks, okay? So keep that in mind that Joyce looks prepared. She looks scared, but she looks ready to fight. But then we have our boy Will, who is standing to the side looking up like he's in a trance or being affected by something for some reason. So we don't understand what's going on here. But then what I want you to keep in mind is our boy, who is supposedly known as Derek, I'm going to call him AKA Derek, all right? This new character that we see clips of with Erica, and we see behind the scenes footage in the past, okay? If you've seen it, I'm sure you know. But the point is we see this boy floating up in the sky, people. But why does our group all look content and like they're ready to fight while he is floating up in the sky? They don't look how it looks like when Max was doing that, okay? Like they are terrified and they don't know, like they're failing, right? So therefore, in my opinion, something involving this scene seems like it's a plan, in my opinion, a plan to trap something necessarily. So maybe Will doing that in this scene is a hint that Will might be a big connection to how they are going to solve this major problem like we know he should have. But the main thing is maybe Will is doing something that is leading something to them in this scene. So keep that in mind. But then our next scene, okay, which we have a Holly Wheeler theory, but we never got back into our Karen Wheeler theories, which I really want to. So let me know if you want to get back into those. But I want to get back and connect these clips, okay? And I say these clips because this one we get this one scene, okay? We get this one little clip of Karen and Holly Wheeler. And in my opinion, they do not look like they are witnessing something like a lot of people out there think. In my opinion, this looks like they are hiding from something. It looks dark and it looks like Karen is doing her protective thing that she always does with Holly that we see her do. Okay, she's trying to hold her and protect her, but it kind of looks like they are hiding from something in this scene. But then I want you to keep in mind that a while back, if this is a spoiler to you, I'm sorry, but a while back there was a behind the scenes footage of Holly Wheeler, okay? And basically she is in the kitchen screaming from what it looks like, and she looks terrified, all right? So now I want you to compare both of these clips, all right? We see them together in this teaser trailer, okay? So keep that in mind that we see them together and they look like they're hiding from something. But if we compare this with that behind the scenes photo from a while back involving Holly screaming, okay, in the kitchen, and I don't want to make any assumptions, people, but I do not like the comparison if you put these two clips together and they are at 2 different parts of this show for any reason. I don't like that we see Holly with Karen in one clip and then we see Holly screaming and looking terrified in another clip and Karen is nowhere to be found. I don't like that, and I'm not making the assumption, so let me know your thoughts. But then our next clip, we see Max and Lucas, all right, and we see Max in her comatose state, and we see Lucas sitting there just looking at her. But if you take a look at this, it's a little eerie, in my opinion, people. We see kind of a reddish light in this scene, all right? We also see that picture that was drawn from Max to Lucas in the Creel House scene. So I don't know if there's any involvement, but this kind of looks like a weird scene, an eerie scene to me. But let me know your thoughts about that as well. It just looks a little eerie to me, people. But then this one excited me, okay, people? We see a clip of our boys together, our boys Dustin and Steve. And yes, I hope we see a lot of clips with them. I love these two together. They are so hilarious. But more importantly, in this scene, a lot of people are thinking that this is in Hawkins Lab, which I think it very well could be as well. But the main thing is what are they looking up at, okay? And I want to know something else. Do you think that this could also be possibly in the high school or one of the schools, maybe the middle school or the high school for that matter? Because in my opinion, I don't remember ever seeing the inside of Hawkins High School in the Upside Down at all, okay? So just keep that in mind, that it would be interesting to visit the high school or the other school, because we get a little bit of that in season 2 when Will's running through the hallways, but we do not see the inside of the school in the Upside Down, which is very interesting, okay? So let me know your thoughts about that. But what's interesting, I want to know what they are looking up at. They look like they are looking up, and this is the scene I'm talking about, how we get another scene of Dustin looking up into the distance like he's just looking up at the reality of a situation, all right, or whatever is about to be coming. But this next clip is so interesting to me, and it's Eleven and Hopper, okay, and they look like they're in this like base, this secret base that kind of looks and reminds me of Russia, how the Russian base looked, okay? But other than that, I want you to keep in mind that we have seen Eleven do this before, all right? And not just her scream, okay? But we have seen Eleven hold her ears and scream like this before. And I want you to keep in mind that you might not like it, and this is a big and crazy connection, but this could connect somebody and a character back into this show, people, and that character being Kali. We have seen Eleven do this back in season 2 when Kali was getting into Eleven's head and she showed her Brenner. Okay, she basically was telling her that whole story about how something's festering and that an evil is festering and it's going to kill. Okay, but the main thing is how Eleven gets out of that. What does she do? She covers her ears and she screams, "Get out of my head, get out of my head, get out of my head." So no doubt in my mind, people, that connects this clip, so let me know your thoughts. But in my opinion, this connects Kali in a way, or at least somebody that is in Eleven's head or messing with Eleven's head, and doing something to Eleven where she has trouble controlling it or pushing it away like we see back in season 2. So it's very interesting that we saw that in a connection with Brenner and Kali, okay? But just keep that in mind, that I know you might not like it and you might not want that character to come back. But in my opinion, the character needs to come back for the show to make sense. And I'm going to say that for all the way back, and I'm going to say that all the way until the show is even over and if she doesn't come back. But the main thing is, people, that we see this before, so let me know your thoughts. And then it jumps into this wall scene, okay, this big, massive wall with 2 people, and it kind of looks, from what my opinion, it kind of looks like Eleven and Hopper once again. And in my opinion, that would make a lot of sense, okay? It would make so much sense that if it was those 2, because we have seen them attack this wall before, if this is the same wall, being the big mother gate, okay, that huge one that Eleven closed in season 2. And who did she close it with? She closed it with Hopper, okay? But I want to ask you something, okay? I want to put on you something that maybe this thing could be, okay? So if this is not the same mother gate for any reason, say this is something else that they're discovering, some big massive wall or something covered by all of this fucking vines and goopy shit. But my main thing is if this is something that is being covered up by something, okay, do you think this could possibly be a discovery of the USS Eldridge that is shown or talked about in the first Shadow, okay, the origin story, which involves Hopper? And now, if this happens to be this USS Eldridge, which I feel like we need to have a connection to this in this show, one way or another, we need to have a connection as to how this actually started, being the first origin and being the actual involvement with Brenner's father and the mysterious ship that went missing, okay? Being the USS Eldridge that Brenner's father was on and survived and he came back and all this shit. I don't know too much about it. But the main thing is I really feel like this kind of just looks like a big base to something, okay? And I truly, truly believe that the bridge, chapter 7 of this season, okay, this is actually going to end part 2 of this show, which is very interesting, mind you. And this is going to be our last episode before our finale episode, which is very, very interesting as well. But the main thing is that I have this thought that that bridge episode is going to be our connection to the first Shadow or that ship, the USS Eldridge, being the bridge of a ship, where maybe they discover the bridge of this ship or discover this ship once again in the Upside Down or Dimension X, wherever they end up going in season 5. But maybe, just maybe, because this is just my opinion, but let me know your thoughts, people. I think it would be freaking wild if we see this ship in this season or in this show of Stranger Things whatsoever. I think it would be insane, so let me know your thoughts. But then we get to an interesting one, people. An interesting one that a lot of people are trying to connect to a spin-off, people. This clip of Mike holding back these random kids, one of them being AKA Derek, okay? And he's holding them back from what looks like they're looking up at something massive that's arising into the sky, from what it looks like to me. But what's interesting, okay, you also see Joyce holding Will, who looks very distressed or weak in the background, okay, which is very, very interesting, all right? But what I want you to keep in mind, okay, we have AKA Derek, all right, but we have these other two kids, and a lot of people are saying, oh, this looks like Susie, okay, but in my opinion, it looks a little bit like Susie, but it looks like somebody else a lot more, in my opinion. This, to me, looks like a child version of Marissa, the librarian, in my opinion, which I don't understand whatsoever, but I find very interesting that we see a Marissa in the earlier seasons, okay, with the librarian. And we see that character, okay? But then we get Susie, all right, in season 3 and 4. And she's kind of similar to that character in a way. She's kind of smart. She's kind of sassy, right? But now we see this little clip, all right, of this younger version of that, okay? So I don't know where that's going, but it's a little odd, don't you think? But then there's also this other kid that a lot of people are like, oh, he's just this random kid. But in my opinion, this looks like a little Argyle to me. So if we are getting a spinoff, maybe this is Erica's group, okay? Because we notice that Derek and Erica are friends. Okay? We see that connection behind the scenes stuff. You guys probably all know all about that. But the main thing is that we see these new kids involved with Derek. So that logically, in my opinion, they should be involved with Erica as well. So if they are, maybe that could be why we saw these earlier characters, or maybe that's why these new characters are resembling some of these characters that we've had in the show already. Being Marissa, being Susie, being Argyle, maybe even being Bob, okay? So therefore, maybe we are going to get a spinoff involving these characters, okay? But it would be very interesting to see if these characters act like these other characters we've seen from other seasons, especially AKA Derek, okay? But then, yes, we get to our last clip, people. And I'm not going to lie to you, I wish I wouldn't have been able to record my live reaction because I almost teared up. I pretty much was tearing up by this point in the trailer. This show has literally given me a YouTube life, all right? This show has literally changed my life and giving me a family of almost 1,000 people that I have never met or ever talked to before. And now I get to talk to all of you beautiful people in the comments all the time from all over the world. It blows my mind that this show has brought people from all over the globe together. So with that being said, our last clip is of our boy, all right? Our boy Will screaming. He has this blood-curdling scream at the end telling whoever is around him to run. And in my opinion, like I said earlier, remember how Billy looks and how he screams. In my opinion, people, this resembles almost the same exact thing. This resembles a possible sacrifice, in my opinion. And yes, I'm going to say the name, but I don't really think it's going to be that necessarily. I just think that whatever is going on with Will in this season, he is going to have a lot of involvement with the bigger picture, maybe the bigger monster. And maybe not necessarily Vecna, in my opinion, people, because Vecna, in my opinion, is more connected to 11 and strictly like the Creel House family massacre and all that mystery. You don't really see that connection between Will and Vecna at all. Even when we first are introduced and all throughout season 4, we don't really see a connection to that. Our connection to Will is the Mind Flayer, people, and we have a connection between the two of those characters, Vecna and Will, being the Mind Flayer. Not them together or solely just those two characters together. There's a connection that they both connect to. So therefore, I really truly think that this Mind Flayer is going to make its appearance once again, but in a different, maybe more physical, even more physical than season 3 form. So let me know your thoughts about all of this, okay, people? But in my opinion, that scene of Will screaming reminds me so much of how Billy looked when he sacrificed himself. So I truly think, and I really hope that doesn't happen. I would be really upset if we end up seeing Will go in that way. But let me know your thoughts about all this. This was a long one. This was a cool one. And I am so excited that we are finally on the countdown, people. And trust me, I could not be happier of how they split this up. With that being said, after part 1 comes out, we are going to be going crazy with theories that whole entire month, all right? And then after Christmas, people, we have 1 week to create all of these theories as much as possible and connect everything that we have ever done in all of these theories. We have 1 week until that finale movie, I'm going to call it, and to see how spot on or how close we were to all of these theories through this whole entire past year. So with that being said, people, keep subscribing, liking, and following this journey, and you guys already know, we out.